What's up, y'all? I am joined with DJ Knox, former running back for Purdue University. He's now a coach, doing great things. Family man, you're a family man now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So where are you now? Talk about your personal life. I know did you move from West Lafayette to Tennessee?
Yeah. Yeah, so I moved from West Lafayette in January. I moved down here to Chattanooga. So I'm residing in Chattown now, coaching the running backs here. And it's been a transition. You know how as coaches, you're always moving and you uprooted and you got to go. So but it's been a flawless transition for me. And everybody's back home waiting to get down here. So I've just been trying to get a couple things in order before the fam comes down.
Right, because Chattanooga was like 3.5 hours from Atlanta, right?
Actually, it's two
It's
hours
two.
from my
Even
doorstep from my doorstep to my parents. So, I'm in and out. Anytime I get a little free time, I'm down there, kicking it. Because being in Indiana, I've been so far away from my family all the time that, when I got the opportunity, I'm down there whenever I can.
I was just going to ask. I know they're probably excited just to have you close because you've been away for what? How many years now? It's been a little minute.
About 8, 9, almost 10 years.
So how's the transition? Is it like Lafayette or West Lafayette rather?
No.
No. No.
It's a much bigger city.
Okay.
And and it's also down south below the Bible Belt. So it's definitely more what I'm used to, because I hear a lot of people with the Southern slang a little bit, and they have, a bit of an accent. So it's a little bit more home for me. But as far as like it being similar to West Lafayette, I feel like they're two complete different sides of the spectrum.
Right. So how did you decide to go to Tennessee? Or actually, why did you decide to leave Purdue? Because I know you were coaching for them for a little bit.
Yeah, so the last 2 years I was a graduate assistant at Purdue. And we had two of the best seasons that Purdue has had in the last couple of years, about 10 years actually. So actually it just came down to it was a coaching transition. Coach Brown decided to leave, and everybody was looking for opportunities, because the more you win, more opportunities arise for everybody. So lucky for me, I knew I had done a great job with, some of the coaches, or at least they told me that I did a good job with, the guys and my time at Purdue, and coaches know coaches. And I was presented with an opportunity because UT Chat was looking for a running back coach. So made a couple phone calls and got in touch with a couple people, and this opportunity came about, and I jumped right on it.
Man, leadership, scholarship, service. I see you. For those of you who don't know, I met DJ at Purdue. We were both in Greek life. He's an Omega, I'm a Delta. So that's how we really, we met before then, but that's, where our friendship really started. So talk about going from player at Purdue, top player at Purdue, to coaching, like leading people. Like, what's been the most rewarding, but also the most challenging part of just being on a different side of the ball?
That's a loaded question right there. As far as transitioning from player to coach, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, for the simple fact that I felt like I had already been working on this profession while I was a player, having the responsibility of being a team captain and leading the guys that you're shoulder to shoulder with every Saturday, going into war with. That was something that I had already been working on as a player, being voted team captain. A lot of times you're responsible for guys making sure they're at lifts, they're going to classes, or pulling them to the side if you see anything going on. And it's not just holding the title, it's about having guys and holding them accountable for the things that they're doing, because it's more about building for after football or life, because right. Your shelf life as an athlete only lasts a certain amount of years. You know, it's so small on the spectrum of life, and you know, you have to build those qualities that carry you on throughout life. So, you know, sometimes it was pulling a guy to the side. Hey, what's going on? You know, how can I help you? Or what are you, you know, where are you trying to go? What are your goals? How do we reach those? And that was something that I did as a player. So transitioning on into coaching, it was seamless for me. You know, and being a younger guy, you were able to get in touch and understand what, you know, some of the guys are going through that are younger than
Right.
you, or because you're fresh out of ball. So you listen to the same music sometimes, and you kind of understand when they're talking to each other, or they ask you a certain question, or why they have this certain perspective on certain things. And it's almost like you're a mediator between the players and some of the older coaches.
So in terms of coaching, let's switch back to player. Was it ever your goal to go pro, or was it just kind of a thing to where you were just like, this is just a better shoe? You always wanted to be a coach from day one, or, you know, what were your aspirations, I guess, as a player? You know, everybody for the most part, they want to hit the NFL, but was that always your intention or your goal?
Yeah, I can definitely say, even as a younger child, you know, growing up and coming from an area that's so saturated with great athletes in South Atlanta, you know, it was always a dream of that's where I want to go, or that's who I want to be. And you know, you looked up to a lot of guys that made it to the NFL. So the NFL was definitely like a plan A for me. You know, I was all in on it. But you know, also scholarship was very important for me in my upbringing with my parents. So, you know, there was always going to be other avenues that I knew I could, you know, excel in, even if it wasn't the NFL. So at my completion of my career at Purdue, I definitely did. I trained, got an agent, and actually attempted to get into the NFL. And I got a rookie tryout with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I had a small
I
stint.
remember that, right?
So yeah, so I mean that was eye opening. That was good for me, you know, just to say that, hey man, I'm in the locker room sharing the same lockers, sharing the same field with some of great players from all around the nation. And you know, it was almost like a reward for my hard work that I had been putting in for years. And you know, it comes to an end for everybody, you know, because I chased it for a while, and I continued to work out for teams and go other places. But then I started to just see that it was a never ending cycle of, you know, moving around and doing this and not being able to get my feet set anywhere. So I was like, hey, you know, I need to start to build, you know, wealth, and, you know, start to get my real estate portfolio, like start to get things moving forward, because at this time I had just had my daughter. So, you know, my whole mindset had to change, and I couldn't just, you know, live off of whatever I just got from this team or this little, like, it was more of like, now I have a family to support. So that's how I kind of transitioned into the workforce, into corporate America, and I started to work for Ford. You know, and I did that for a little while. And one day I was just at work, and, you know, I got a call from some of the coaches from Purdue, Coach Brom, Coach Shep, Coach Barclay. They all called me and was like, hey, man, we feel like you'd be perfect for this position, you know, and we see a future in this for you. So initially, coaching wasn't on my mind.
So
So I
they
was like, man,
approached you.
oh, yeah, yeah. And they
Oh,
was like, hey, man, I mean, we feel like you'd be great for it, and we try and do something special, and we feel like you could help us get to where we want to go. And, you know, at first I was a little reluctant, because I was like, well, you know, hey, you know, at the time I had just bought a house. I had a couple of responsibilities, and I was like, hey, God sent this opportunity to me. And I sat on it for a while, and I thought about it, and I was like, hey, you know, I'd probably be a lot happier, you know, and this is something that I've done for my entire life. So I can definitely say that I have a background, and I have the credibility to be able to coach these kids, and they understand that, you know, there's a certain type of way we want to play this game if we want to be successful, you know.
right.
So I sat on it for a while. I called, talked to my grandfather, talked to a couple family members. I actually talked to, you know, a couple of my line brothers. And, you know, I got their perspective on it. It was like, hey, what do you think? And, you know, pretty much everybody was like, hey, chase it. You know, you'll be great at whatever you do, just chase it. So, you know, I had to call him back. I was like, hey, coach, I'm on the way when you need me to start. And it was a
Wow.
graduate assistant position. And didn't necessarily pay as much, but I knew that it would pay off a little later. I just had to put in the work.
That was gonna be my next question. How did you, you know, take that risk in terms of taking a pay cut and, and trusting in your faith pretty much, basically? That is a bit of a transition, going from making X amount of dollars to being basically a graduate student again, or a student and a coach.
Yeah.
How did that, was that tough? Was that did it take a mental toll on you at any point? Or was it always just, this is temporary, it's gonna elevate me?
Yeah, so it definitely did take a toll on me at first. I was like, hey, because I was in limbo, like, do I take this opportunity? Because, especially college football, like the demand for it and how competitive it is, these opportunities don't come around that often. And I had already had my degree, I was educated, I had a little skin in the game as far as the field that I was in at the time. So I was like, hey, I could always come back to this opportunity. Being able to coach college football and be in this environment for the rest of my life, or however, my coaching career lasts, this only comes by so often.
Right.
And, somebody, and at the time I was at work and I was asking a guy by the name of Kobe Roberts that I worked with. And I was like, hey, man, like, what do you think I should do? He was like, man, what I don't want you to do is be sitting here for the next 20 years and then think back and be like, hey, you could have been on that field coaching and doing this. And I feel like that's something that you would really enjoy because of your personality. And I was like, you know what? Thank you. And I called coach back and it was uphill from there. So as far as the pay aspect and going to being a student and, the long hours, and I mean, you're pretty much taking a back seat to a position coach. And it was kind of different for me in a way at first, but I learned so much. I learned so much. And I don't think I would be in the position now that I'm in if I hadn't taken that backseat and learned from a coach that I played for, Chris Barclay. And he's a phenomenal running back coach. As far as like, being on top and making sure that you have everything in order, because he did more than just coach you on the field. He coached your life, being responsible, being accountable, showing up for your teammates. And he made it a family environment, and I thank him to this day, for that. And that's what made it easier for me at the time, because it wasn't necessarily about the pay at that moment, because I felt lucky just to be on the field in these moments, sharing it with my alma mater. Like, I was like, man, this is crazy, so it made it all worth it. So it really didn't take that much of a toll. Now there was some mental real estate that it had in me. I was like, hey man, like, golly, but made it through, and I had to pay my dues.
Now you touched on something a little while back. You talked about education, staying on top of your school and your work, which, the connotation for athletes surrounding like good grades and stuff is not always there. So for you, how important was it for you to maintain your grades, keeping up and making sure that football was just as important as the books?
For me, I definitely feel like, if you're going to chase something, if you're going to do something, you should be really good at it. You should put your best foot forward. So whatever I attack, whether it's on the field, off the field, I want to be well-rounded in every aspect of my life. Whether that's, education, on the field, spiritually, whatever it is, I want to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward. And it also did help a little bit, being around my line brothers that, they take scholarship very serious. I mean, I have 2 right now that are in med school and 2 right now that are working on masters. So it's almost like we all just trying to raise the bar, and we all chasing it, trying to raise it a little higher. So, being around that type of company, it's like, hey man, you got to get you, especially grades reports come out, and we looking at it like, hey man, step your grades up, or you need to do this, or golly, you got a 4.0 up, So it's that healthy competition with keeping your brothers around, and those guys are elevating in their field. So I don't necessarily feel like scholarship was that much of a problem, because it was something that we all had to be on, and surrounding myself with those type of guys who had those same common goals in mind, yeah, I mean, it was something that just had to be done.
Now, you talking about your Lion brothers a lot. So how was it at the time balancing you got school, you got football, and you have going through, and becoming an Omega? That's a lot to deal with. When you're in a chapter, you have programming, you have all these other things, events that you have to do, grades that you have to do, stuff you have to do for your organization, stuff you have to do for your team, stuff that you have to do in your personal life, and then you got books.
Mm-hmm.
How was it adding that third factor in joining a chapter, during college?
Um, First you have to prioritize. There's things that come first, and scholarship, and also making sure that you're taking care of your business on the field, and adding that third factor. You had to be intentional about everything that you did, right? It wasn't just join and now I'm an Omega and now I don't put in any work, right? We were trying to build something. It wasn't just getting the letters. So there was an accountability amongst us all to make sure that we need to continue to push this forward, lifting as we climb, which is something that we adopt. So as we're working, we're also trying to bring it and make it better than what we found it. So that was a very important aspect for us. So you had to be like, hey, I know y'all tired. You get out of practice, whatever. We got hot practice. We got a hop show, or we have an event that we have to plan. So as soon as you get out of practice, hey, shower up. We here. We meeting at this time. Make sure sound works. Everything. We got the plays planned. Everything's in place. So you had to be intentional, and it wasn't just being lackadaisical. Because understand that you're wearing so many different hats, there was no time for downtime.
Right.
So I felt like that was one thing that kind of kept us there.
And after all that, you stepping into a new role, family man. You got a daughter, you got a fiance. Talk
Yes,
about
I do.
that. That's new for you, man.
Yes.
It's like
I
I'm happy for you, but I'm like at the same time, it's like, wow, dang, this is life now.
yeah.
So talk about that. How's that been? Fatherhood, being engaged.
uh it's a beautiful thing, and every day they motivate me. And I say this all the time. I was talking to Megan, my fiance, tonight, and I was talking to her mom. She was visiting with her mom, and I was like, hey, honestly, I wouldn't be where I am without your daughter. She was that support system that I had when, sometimes you have a 16-hour day and you got to get up and be back at the office at 6 a.m. And it sometimes it got hard, but she never told me like, hey, you can't do this or you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you in this role, whatever you need, and sometimes she had to work and we had a game, but whenever she had any free time, like we played Notre Dame, she'd be driving 2 hours to make sure that she made the game and had to work the next morning. So, she's always been in support of me in this role. Even when I took it, she was a person that I considered too, because, hey, you got to make sure the wife is okay with it.
For sure.
Right.
That
So I was
one.
like, man, I'm telling you, I don't want no trouble. So she's done an amazing job. So I mean, as I climb, I mean, to be honest with you, it's really been on, my support system, her and my daughter. She beautiful young Addison, every day, and she's learning so much, and it's just crazy to see, how she has progressed and like becoming her own person now, and
Mm-hmm.
having her own personality. And but she loves to go to school. She started dance, and she's doing great, and I couldn't ask for a better child. And she's also my motivation, because I wanted to be able to set her up to have a beautiful future so that she can do whatever she would like, chase whatever career that it is that she want to be in, or travel the world. And I feel like working as hard as possible and trying to achieve certain milestones, that I'll be able to present her with those opportunities.
Man, I'm so happy for you. Like,
I
seriously,
appreciate it.
Just you always had your head on straight, but just watching you step into this new room has just been like, it's cool. It's dope, and I'm happy for you.
Appreciate that.
Now I know you said your family, your fiance, your daughter is inspiring you. What inspiration can you give to others, other young men or other people who may want to follow any type of sport or coaching? What piece of advice would you give to them?
One thing I would say is just keep pushing because a little backstory on me, just trying to get into college and get a scholarship. I had no offers going into my senior year of college. And that was something that kind of shook me a little bit. So I was like, hey man, I'm getting to that point where, do I need to chase something else, or do I need to focus my talents other places, or do I just continue to push? And sometimes you can do everything right, and sometimes that door still doesn't open for you. But sometimes you just got to step back, reevaluate, and look and be like, hey, the door don't say push, it say pull, you know?
Wow.
So sometimes it's like you gotta be creative. You gotta keep going and find a way, because I mean, it's especially how competitive it is to rise to the top in a profession like this, or anything that you want to do, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, any sport that you're chasing. Understand that every day somebody is working. So you have to find an avenue, find a lane, and continue to get better. It doesn't just happen just because you're doing the right thing, you know? So I definitely just say, don't give up, just keep pushing. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you got to dig a little deeper to get through,
Man, you over here dropping gems. I'm ready to pull my notebook out. Well, thank you so much for talking with
No
me.
doubt.
I like to ask this question before I let everybody go. I love music. So what's on your playlist right now? What you jamming out to?
Oh, okay. Let me if you don't mind if I grab my
Go, you got to
real
cheat.
quick.
Go ahead. I'm gonna give you a little peek.
Deontay Hitchcock, Feelings, featuring her. I've been listening to that a little bit, I listen to a little bit of the Lil Key, just trying to stay in tune with what the guys listen to. And my new artist that I'm kind of listening to is Big X the Plug,
Okay, I'm about
Texas.
to check that out. I ain't heard of him. Put me on game. All
No
right.
doubt.
Well, thank you. Let everybody know what school you're at, what you're doing, where they can follow you, and just leave them with that information for me.
No doubt. DJ Knox, I coach running backs here at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. You can find me at st_Knox on Instagram, or you can also follow me at BlockKnox1 on Twitter.
Perfect. Y'all heard it here. DJ Knox, running back coach. Thank you so much for talking with me. We go way back. So thank you so much.
No doubt. Thank you.